Hello everyone, I'm Xiyuan. My topic is towards Langevin equations of locomotor obstacle interaction dynamics. Nowadays, we have seen advanced robots achieve remarkable movement while maintaining an upright posture during a single locomotor mode such as running or descending. However, they still struggle with interacting with complex environments and transitioning between different locomotor modes. This challenge likely arises from a limited understanding of the physical principles governing these interactions and transitions. On the other hand, animals are good at traversing complex environments. They employ a variety of locomotor modes and strategies to interact with three-dimensional terrain, smoothly transitioning between these modes for movement. To understand the physical principles behind animal locomotor mode transitions, previous lab members studied how animals traverse different obstacles and developed robophysical models to analyze their motion. They identified stereotyped locomotor modes and discovered potential energy landscapes to describe and predict these transitions. Let me take traversing beam obstacles as an example. To traverse grass-like beam, a cockroach can use what we call the pitch mode. The animal pitched down the beams and traversed, where its body pitched up a little bit due to the resistance from the beams. However, when the beams are stiff, the animal cannot push down the beam anymore. Instead, they usually transition from a pitch mode to what we call the roll mode. Building on this, we first developed a simplified model that considers only the system's potential energy. Using this model, we calculated the system's potential energy as a function of body pitch and roll, identifying three local minimum basins. The locomotor transitions from pitch to roll mode when crossing the energy barrier to escape the pitch basin and reach the roll basin. To further investigate this, we built a robophysical model that translates forward while oscillating along the z-axis to analyze locomotor mode transitions. We hypothesize that system randomness helps the locomotor escape from one basin to another, enabling locomotor mode transitions. The robotic experiment confirmed our hypothesis. On top, without oscillation and randomness, the robot remained in pitch mode, trapped in pitch basin. On bottom, with sufficient oscillation and added randomness, the robot quickly translated to roll mode, escaping the attraction of the pitch basin. To study the role of randomness, we varied the robot's oscillation frequency. Higher frequency increased the system randomness and energy, leading to more frequent transitions from pitch to roll mode, as shown by the red line on the landscape. However, we still lack a statistical physics model to describe locomotor transitions on the potential energy landscape with noise. To develop a statistical physics model for locomotor transitions, we turn to Langevin dynamics, a well-established stochastic model. Studies in statistical physics and molecule dynamics have shown its effectiveness in describing particle motion under potential energy and noise. Additionally, successful applications in biological research indicate its potential at macroscopic scales. Here we want to see how well Langevin dynamics can describe macroscopic locomotor transitions in our problem. The Langevin equation is defined as follows, with the inertia on the left, where the right-hand side consists of the potential energy gradient, damping, and randomness. For overdamped systems, the Langevin equation simplifies by neglecting the inertia term, leading to a first-order stochastic differential equation, making it easier to derive the probability density function of the Langevin on different landscapes. To apply Langevin dynamics in analyzing locomotor transitions, we first compute the potential energy of the robophysical systems. Then we get the landscape gradient and incorporate it into the Langevin equation to model the system's stochastic behavior. Using a finite difference approach, we numerically solve for the probability density function. To further investigate statistical trends of robot motion, we develop a simulation system that generates extensive data, from which we obtain a robot state probability density. Finally, we feed the Langevin equation to the simulated robot and compare the two. We simulated robot in Project Chrono and carefully validated its motion against the previous experiments. First, we validate the transition probability by letting the robot move forward with oscillation at different frequencies. Next, we validated the robot's motion with a fixed rotational joint, measuring the contact force and torque exerted against obstacles. Our results show a strong alignment between simulation and experiment. Before moving to the robot beam contact case, we first simulated a non-contact scenario, where robot had a fixed translational joint but was free to rotate. Without contacting obstacles, the potential energy landscape increases with pitch and roll, forming a bowl-like shape. The batch simulations results show that the robot drifts toward the landscape basin due to the gravity, while spreading out due to the randomness. Next, we measure the probability density of the robot states at each time step. For better visualization, a zoomed-in view of the probability density is shown in the bottom left corner. Using the probability density of the robot states generated from simulation, we feed the overdamped Langevin equation with the numerical probability density solution. The fitted Langevin probability density, shown in the bottom right corner, aligns with the robot state probability density, achieving an average correlation of 0.9 between the Langevin distribution and the robot simulation distribution. Then, we simulated the robot's motion on an evolving landscape, allowing free-forward movement and dynamic beam interaction. Fitted Langevin parameters to the simulation probability density. Both the Langevin and the simulated distributions evolve similarly overall. If we take a closer look at the quantitative match, we realize that their correlation remains high in the non-contact region and drops when contact occurs. This indicates that a single fixed set of Langevin parameters is insufficient for accurately capturing both non-contact and contact scenarios. Following our presented researches, we found that Langevin dynamics can describe microscopic locomotor transitions in cluttered terrain. Our future work involves extending the current overdamped Langevin fitting to include propulsive force. With a more accurate and complex form of the Langevin model, we aim to better capture the robot's motion on the evolving landscape. Additionally, we plan to implement potential shaping control using Langevin dynamics to guide the robot physical system toward a desired state. I sincerely thank all members of the Terradynamics lab for their invaluable guidance and collaborations, and thank you all for listening.